Check, check, check. Check. Hello. Good morning, good day, good afternoon. It is the first of the month. I just realized it's October 1st, 9:19 in the morning. And it's on a Friday. Let's go. It's Friday, October 1st, 9:19 in the morning. Hope y'all had a fantastic week. Y'all made it. It's Friday. I know it's been a couple days since I've had an episode, but I just had things I had to do. I had a statistics exam on Wednesday. I don't really know how I did on that. Actually, I need to check my grade on that. We have a big game coming up tomorrow. It is the official grand opening of our new stadium at Saddleback College in Mission Viejo, California. If you would like to come to the game, it is actually going to be free, and there's going to be free food, free stuff. There's going to be live performances. There's going to be like a halftime competition. So I'm just going to say this. You're going to want to be there, actually. It's going to be fire. And then obviously we're going to take Ventura. They're the number 3 ranked team in the state. And kickoff, I believe, is at 6 p.m. But you're going to want to come early. You're going to want to come early. Today, I actually know what I want to talk about today. As you may know, this is a live show, so I don't always know what I'm going to talk about ahead of time. It's going to sound a little harsh, okay? Because it kind of is, only because, and when you find out the topic, this is not just for veterans, this is for civilians and veterans as we continue the conversation. And I'm titling it, as of now, it could probably change, nobody actually cares that you're a veteran. Okay? And I'm just going to talk about this from personal experience. I never understood the difficulty of transitioning out of the military, specifically the Marine Corps, until I actually got out. It wasn't when I was transitioning out, it was when I actually got out, and how people told me and explained that there's a struggle, and we hear about veterans committing suicide, and it's sad, and all these other issues that veterans have going from military to civilian, and in my case from Marine to civilian. And I never got it until I transitioned out. I'm not going to say it's the most difficult thing in life, but it is a difficult thing. Because there's several different reasons, and not all of them apply to the same people. Yes, some people have PTSD. Some people have like survival skill, or some people have mental problems and they get out. But it's not even that. Okay, so I'm gonna only talk about the Marine Corps, and I'm sure this is the same for other branches. Just to keep it simple, and just to keep it in context of what I know about. There are going to be guys and gals that have mental issues separating from the military, like honorably or dishonorably or other than honorable, even if they've never deployed. Just because they have mental issues does not mean that it's from PTSD. You can have like mental health issues from transitioning, even if you worked in an office and you never deployed a single time, and you never even like really went to the range, you never trained up for deployment, you never did a lot of combat training. Okay. Me personally, I was in the infantry, trained all the time to get ready for deployments, to train for combat. And then when I was on my way out, I was training up dudes who would then also continue on to go to combat. You know what I'm saying? It's like an endless cycle. Okay. But part of the struggle is that you get, when you join the Marine Corps and you're in boot camp, it is literally, you get brainwashed. Okay. I'm not gonna sit here and talk about boot camp, but you do get brainwashed on how to be a Marine. And you spend pretty much your first, I'm gonna say first 4 years figuring it out. Okay. Now, you in reality, when you're like, if you're anything less than a year in, you don't really know what you're doing, especially in the infantry. Like, you have so much to learn, so much to figure out. It's not about until you're like 2 years, like 2 years plus in, especially in infantry, that you really got your feet under you. But even, I'm just gonna say, for the first 4 to 5 years, I was in for 5 years. You're just training to be a Marine, specifically in the infantry. Okay, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, even when you know it's coming, it's still sudden. You're a civilian. Because even in the transition process of you getting out of the Marine Corps, you're still a Marine. Does that make sense? Everything has that hint of gayness, as we call it, in the Marine Corps. Nothing is that simple. Everything is frustrating to deal with. Things are difficult for no reason. The checkout process to get out of the Marine Corps is one of the most frustrating processes ever. Turning in your gear that you've had for 5 years. Luckily, this is going to sound made up, and I deserve an award for this, and other people have said I deserve an award for this. I turned my gear back into SIF on the very first try. Like, I got my checkout done and my stamp on the very first try. Yes, you heard that right. I was in the infantry for 5 years, and I turned all my gear into SIF, all of it back in on the very first try. I did not lose a single piece of gear for 5 years. Can you believe that? The only people who know what I'm talking about are Marines, okay? I'm not going to sit here and explain it, but then don't worry, this isn't just for veterans, civilians. If you're listening, this will apply to you here very shortly, okay? I promise. Actually, this should apply to you. This should help you give a better understanding of, if you have friends, coworkers, family that are getting out of the military, what it's like for them to get out, okay? And it's even when you're getting out and you know you're getting out and you have even like to the day that you get your paperwork and you're like your last day on the job, you get your DD-214 is the paper that I'm talking about, is the form, and that means like you're done, you're out. There is still like weird gayness, like the hoops that you got to go through because it's still in the Marine Corps, okay? It's not like simple, and all of a sudden you're civilian. Oops. Maybe you have maybe you struggle with transitioning because of like the sorry, I felt that sneeze coming. I was trying to stop it. Maybe you have trouble transitioning because, or some people have sorry, I feel like I'm about to sneeze again. Okay, I held it back. Maybe you have trouble transitioning, or your friend has trouble transitioning the person you know, because they're used to like something simple, like having a schedule and a place to be all the time, and then all of a sudden they're just free. I remember when I was getting out, or when I got out, for way too long, for like probably 3 months, I always was like checking my phone. Like, I felt like I was supposed to be somewhere. Like, I felt like I was doing something wrong. And it's just because I was used to constantly being like basically micromanaged. You know what I mean? And it's a weird, uncomfortable feeling. And obviously that like passes, and that probably doesn't happen to everybody, but I've had other Marines that have that same kind of feeling. Like, it feels like you're supposed to be somewhere and you're about to get like blasted because you're not there. You know what I mean? Or like, it feels like you know that feeling like when you leave for a vacation and you feel like you forgot something. Imagine that times like 100, and that's what it like felt like. Like, I was supposed to be somewhere, and that like I'm constantly checking my phone. Like, my phone's gonna be like, you were supposed to be here an hour ago. Like, where are you? Like, and you're gonna get in trouble. Like, you know what I mean? So that's just like just on the surface of what like probably every service member feels like transitioning. And more specifically, I want to talk about the infantry for a second. in the infantry, we don't get skills that transfer over to jobs, right? Like if you're a helicopter mechanic, you literally get certifications and you've worked on helicopters. And I know tons of people in the air wing when they get out that have a job lining up for them. If you were in security forces, like you have security background, that directly translates into security jobs in the civilian world, right? You work on trucks in the Marine Corps, or the military, you have certifications that, you can work on trucks when you get out of the military. When you're a big one is a medic. If you're an Army medic, or I'm pretty sure I don't know how Navy corpsmen work exactly, but if you're an Army medic, you have certifications that directly translate to when you get out. A lot of them have like paramedic certs and all that kind of stuff. So there's jobs for most people, for most service people when you get out. But in the infantry, specifically infantry in the Marine Corps, there's really nothing for us. Unless you go to private military contracting, which is a whole different deal. Maybe we can talk about that at a different time. But there's really no job for us. Sure, do we have leadership skills? Kind of, right? Some of us, not all of us. Just because you're in the military, by the way, does not mean you're, just to all my civilian listeners, just because someone is in the military does not mean they have leadership skills. I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay? Do a lot of them? Sure. Do a lot of them know how to not be a bad leader? Probably. And just because they're a veteran doesn't mean they're all honorable, they're all disciplined, right? Just to be clear. There are outliers. You would expect that of Marines specifically, because we as Marines, we do have like a different, we are looked at a little bit differently in society. But for the most part, that's not always true. Okay? But in the infantry, our whole job is to train to deploy, to go fight bad guys, right? And we have no skills that transfer over. Essentially, and I said this to someone and he disagreed with me and said that like I have these personal skills. Like I have these skills, but not everybody has these skills, but I also still disagree with him. I am essentially unhireable. Right? I don't have or when I got out of the Marine Corps, I didn't have a degree. I didn't have real skills that transfer over to like I can work in an office. I don't have experience with Excel. I don't have experience with these things. I don't have, you know what I mean? Y'all see what I'm getting at? There are other jobs in the military that do, but specifically infantry, we are unhireable. And I'm saying this to civilians and veterans because veterans need to know that this whole like, there will be a job lined up for you when you get out of the military. That is not true for everybody. And reality is that nobody actually cares that you're a veteran. And I've said that to my civilian friends, and some of them are business owners. Some of them are like high up upper management. I have very successful friends. I have friends who I don't have friends that are losers out of high school. I'm sorry. If you're my friend, if I call you my friend, like if I'm like actually hang out with you, I hit you up on social media, you should know that I don't think you're a loser. Okay? Just to be clear. All right? I love everybody. Well, I try to, but I'm just not I'm not gonna spend my time with you because you're gonna drag me down. All right? I struggle not being a loser. Okay? So what was I saying? Okay, so I've had conversations with friends and other people that aren't necessarily my friends that are business owners, small business owners, big business owners, upper management that could definitely hire someone. And I'll say something like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm unhireable, or nobody actually cares I'm a veteran. And they'll be like, that's not true. People care. That it's looked highly upon on like applications and like it sets you above your peers. And I'm like, okay, then hire me. And it's usually followed by a long silence or like well, I can't really. If what you're saying is true and every business owner, every CEO is looking for veterans, then why is there so many homeless and jobless veterans? See, the things that come out of people's mouths don't line up with their actions, and that's a lesson for all of us. Nobody actually cares that you're a veteran. Okay? Cooper, quit that. Sorry, my dog is licking himself really loudly. I just don't want that to come over the mic. You can probably hear me clicking these pins. I'm clicking these pins out of whatever reason. Nobody actually cares that you're a veteran. And I'm saying that bluntly, but I'm saying that with love, because I think there's this like weird misconception that when you're in and before you, like when I was signed up and before I left for boot camp and when I was in and like when I was getting out, everybody, people close to me, people not close to me, people in passing would say, "Oh, you know that's going to set you up for the rest of your life. All these benefits, and then it's going to be so easy for you to get a job. It's going to put you above your peers. It's easy for me to be a cop. That's about it." And I have my qualms about becoming a cop that I'll talk about another day. So I'm saying this to my fellow veterans and people who are selective duty that don't bank on being a veteran when you get out. You still need to apply unless you're becoming a cop, like I said, unless you're like a helicopter mechanic or something. I always use that because they legitimately, if you're going in the Marine Corps and you don't want to be in the infantry, you want something that'll give you a job when you get out that pays the most money like that easily, and you don't have to be an officer. I'm going to tell you to be some sort of aviation mechanic or aviation electrician or something, because that is what will do it. That's no BS right there. Like that's like legitimately when I was doing some temporary duties on base, there was literally groves of people coming that will come and get a list of Marines that are about to separate, about to get out, that work on, helicopters or Ospreys or some sort of like electronics for aviation. And they will literally get a list of people and just call them up and be like, "Hey, we need like 6 people hired. Like, we need them now. You get out August. Cool. We'll see you September 1st. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally like that. No BS. I'm pretty sure it'll be like that for a long time. But for the rest of us, you have to figure out what you want to do. And the best advice I have for that, and keep in mind, I hate school. I don't want to go to school. I'm only at school to play football. My best advice, if you know what you want to do, go to school. Not because you're going to learn actual skills in school, like in college, because college is kind of a waste of time. Unless you're trying to go to get a certification that requires a college degree, i.e. doctor, nurse, lawyer, whatever, something like that. It just buys you time, right? Because you get paid money to go to school, there's benefits, and you kind of get connected with people. You go for the networking, you meet people, and it buys you some time to figure out what you actually want to do. Okay? I'm not saying go for 4 years and get a degree. If you do, that's great, but it's paid for. You get rent. You get to like chill out. You get to like learn how to be a civilian. I've been out I got out in December 2019. It's almost 2 years. In 2 months, it'll be 2 years. And I'm still figuring out how to be a civilian. Okay? So it's not going to be this quick transition. It won't be. And no one should expect it to be a quick transition for you. You spent 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years learning how to become a better service member. It's going to take you equally as much time to learn how to become a efficient civilian, if that's the right word to use. So I'm saying all this that sounds kind of harsh, but to be real with you, and I'm just trying to give you like first person perspective of what it's like to get out. And if you are already out and it's something you struggle with, and you are kind of struggling to find your way, I'm telling you this because we're all there with you. And there are several other veterans that are going through what you're going through, and it will it will get better, like I promise. Luckily for me, I don't have a job or whatever, like a career necessarily, but I did know that I was training to play football, so like I am surrounded by like camaraderie, you know what I'm saying? So I have been blessed with that. Although during the pandemic it was a little rough because like I got out December 2019. I walked onto the football team January 20th, where I started walking on or whatever. We got shut down in March. So for like a year, I was just out in the world, but like locked at home at the same time. So I haven't had a civilian job. I mean, like I DoorDash and I've done gigs here and there, but I haven't had like a real civilian job where I show up, 40 hours a week in front of the same people, having legitimate coworkers. You know what I mean? So I can't give you like all the advice, but what I can tell you is that we're all going through it, and you're not alone. And to the civilians that are listening, you need to recognize that even if their life is better than when they were in the military, like in military life kind of sucks, especially infantry in the Marine Corps. Just because your life is better doesn't mean they're not struggling. Does that make sense? They can still be struggling mentally, struggling to like financially, because we're all used for 4+ years having a consistent paycheck. Like we could blow some money, make a bad financial decision, but it doesn't matter because I have for sure a paycheck coming next month. But then all of a sudden, it's out. Not granted, it wasn't a lot of money, but I'm just saying the consistent paycheck is like a real security blanket. I haven't even talked about the struggles with the VA if you choose to use those benefits, which I also highly recommend. The VA is one of the most frustrating things, and I think it literally causes me to have mental health issues. And then I try to get in contact with one of those veteran reps about mental health, and then they give me more mental health issues because they don't contact me back. And they're like, we'll call you today. And then it would like weeks go by and I get a voicemail. I'm like, oh, I forgot I contacted that person. You know what I mean? It's just like it's maddening. Okay. And civilians, when I say nobody, and to veterans, when I say no one cares about veterans, no one cares that you're a veteran. Nobody cares, for the most part, nobody cares that you're a veteran because you have nothing to provide for them for their personal gain. Because a lot of the world is about personal gain, right? Which is why when I say to someone, nobody cares I'm a veteran, and then they say, well, yeah, bosses and CEOs and whoever management will hire veterans, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, then hire me. And they don't. It's because I have nothing to offer them. So veterans, you got to figure out, or active duty members, you have to figure out what you offer and like what you want to do and pursue it. We all have something to offer. It's up to you to figure it out though. You know what I mean? So, and to civilians, you might care about veterans in general, right? But, and this isn't for everybody because there are people who do directly help veterans, I guess. But the reality is that you don't actually care that I'm a veteran. You don't actually care that so and so is a veteran. You get what I'm putting down? You care about veterans, you care about the troops, you support the troops in Afghanistan, you mourn over the 13 that died a couple weeks ago, you will mourn over you on the surface you'll mourn about troops that died in a training accident or in combat. Supposedly you do whatever. If you actually do, that's neither here or there. But when it comes down to it, you don't. If somebody came in, let's say if you were in charge of hiring 5 people for your company, One of them's a veteran, the other four come in with experience and degrees, right? And unless you're dealing with security, I'm not talking about people who deal with like jobs in security or jobs in, you know, private military contracting or cops or whatever. But if you work in an office, a normal office building, no one's working on trucks, cars, planes, or shooting guns. If you work in a normal office building, in a business, and you work, let's say you work in finance, and 5 people come in the door to apply for a position, and you're in charge of hiring them. And one person's a veteran, served 8 years, did 3 deployments to Iraq. Maybe he was a drill instructor, maybe he led thousands of Marines, he trained up thousands of recruits to become Marines. He has all this knowledge about leadership and integrity, and he's an honorable person, and he has all these awards in the military. That sounds great to have on your team. However, the other 4 people have degrees in finance. Maybe one of them just came from a different firm. Maybe one of them worked in a law firm. Maybe one of them was graduated from Harvard Business or something. The reality is that veteran is probably the lowest on your totem pole because he has no skills. He doesn't know how to work an Excel sheet. Maybe he does. He has no experience in finance. You don't get experience in finance in the Marine Corps unless you are working in payroll, right? It doesn't matter that he led Marines. I had a buddy of mine, and he said something to me that is so sad, but it puts in perspective. It's sad because of what he said, and he was genuinely sad at the time. And we both kind of got out of the Marine Corps around the same time. Actually, he got out before me, about like a few months. We met like later on, so we weren't friends like the whole time in the Marine Corps. We just did some temporary duties together like later on. And he was a squad leader in his unit, right? So he was a corporal, and he had 13 Marines under him that were under his charge, and he was entrusted to lead them into combat. He was in charge of training them up. He was entrusted with their lives. Their parents didn't know it, but their parents relied on him to bring their sons back safe. And he got out of the Marine Corps when he was working at Ralph's or Albertsons or one of them. He was bagging groceries. He was only out for a month, and so I was happy for him that he got a job. Because at that point, when you see a veteran, he gets out and he gets a job within a month, you're happy for him no matter what it is. It could be scoop and poop. You got a job as a pooper scooper? All right, good job, you got a job. Because the number one fear for most veterans when they're getting out, and then this weird thing that they keep reiterating when you're getting out, is about being a homeless veteran for some reason. And like I said, if people actually cared about hiring veterans, or people actually cared that they're veterans, there wouldn't be homeless veterans. He was working at Ralph's, and he said to me, he was like, I was like asking how things were going. He's like, man, I guess I don't really have any complaints. I said, like, I was like, you just don't sound happy. He's like, I'm happy to be out, but it's just weird. He was like, you know, I'm 23 years old and I'm bagging groceries. And I said, okay, a lot of, you know, young people bag groceries. Sure, 23 might be a little stretch, but he was like, 4 months ago, I was leading squads. I was running and gunning. Now I'm bagging groceries. And if you don't know what it's like to be a squad leader, then you have no idea what I'm saying. That's just why I put in perspective. I'm gonna reiterate this a second. 4 months ago, he was entrusted with young men's lives. Young men look up to him to train how to not just survive combat, but to fight in combat for each other. 13 Marines looked up to him to make sure that their lives were in order. There was plenty of times when I was a squad leader that I was constantly dealing with Marines' like administrative duties to make sure that they weren't going broke, or they had car insurance and they were going to medical and getting their teeth cleaned. You were essentially babysitting. Because a lot of these kids are 18, 19, 20 years old, don't really know how to manage their lives, right? 4 months ago, he was not 4 months ago from now, 4 months ago from the conversation. This is like over a year ago. 4 months ago, he was squad leader, running and gunning. He was leading a squad. And now he's bagging groceries. It puts in perspective how getting out is a bit of an upgrade, but also it can be a downgrade. He was entrusted with men's lives in the military, but in the civilian world, he was not even trusted to work the cash register. And he probably bagged so many people's groceries and nobody ever asked him anything. Nobody probably ever tipped him. Nobody ever knew that he was a squad leader or that he was in the military. And even if they did, they don't understand. You know why? Because nobody actually cares that he was a veteran. He was probably a better leader than anybody in that store's organization up to a regional manager. He could have probably got hired as the general manager of that grocery store or of multiple grocery stores, and he would have just figured out how to do it. He was that smart, he was that capable, he was that skilled. But because he didn't have any real world, quote unquote, real world skills, he was just trusted to put your groceries in a bag. And I'm not saying this, it is a sad reality, but I'm not saying this to try to make people feel sad or feel depressed or discourage people from getting out of the military or discourage people from going into the military. I'm saying, let's just be real with each other. Civilians, be real with yourselves. Veterans, be real with yourselves. Veterans, be real with civilians. Civilians, be real with veterans. Let's just be real about all this and figure out a way to get veterans ready for the real world. I don't know what that looks like. I really don't, because I'm still going through it myself. I will say, like I said, I will say this again. I'm going to take a sip of coffee real quick. I'm going to say this again. This is coming from someone who hates school, absolutely hates school. I'm going to tell you this. If you don't know what to do, go to school. Get out, go to school. Don't stay in. The last thing you want to do is re-enlist because you don't know what you want to do in the civilian world. You're just signing your life away. Stay in the military because you want to stay in the military. That is how we get bad leaders in the military, is because somebody re-enlists because they don't know what they want to do. Not only is that a failure on your leadership, that's a failure on people letting you know about your options. Okay? So go to school, figure out what you want to do. You're not going to learn what you want to. You're not going to learn most things in school. You're just going to buy time. Which is all you're doing. You're just buying time. You get paid while you do it, and you get to relax. You get to learn to interact with people. And there's also veteran, like at my school at Saddleback, there's a really good veteran, like there's veteran counselors. There's a small niche of veterans. There's a veteran center we can go hang out in, and we can talk shit and whatever. And you still kind of get that sense of camaraderie. But there's also veterans who've been civilians for, who've gotten out for a long time. Some of them were out for 4 or 5, 6 years, and they decided to go back to school. So they had a whole career in the civilian world, and they can give you tips. They can give you help on how to deal with the VA, or how to, transition. Just don't expect everything to happen overnight. I'm gonna leave it with that. Civilians, I hope you listen to this so you can understand what it's like for veterans to get out, and I hope I shed some light on some things. I hope that at the end of the day that you can be motivated. Motivate, hoorah! I hope at the end of the day everybody can just get a little bit motivated to not just keep going, but to realize that we're all in this together. As veterans and civilians, I hope we realize that you might need to give us some guidance. You might need to give advice, but not about, don't just encourage. Don't just be like, it'll be okay. You'll get a job. You'll get a career. You have benefits. The benefits are BS. The opportunities are limited. Okay? Why don't you give us some real advice? Maybe teach us how to do something. Maybe actually like teach a veteran how to like do something that could help them get a job, like how to use Excel or something. Because every job application I see, it's, do you know how to use Excel? And I think I do until I realize that I don't, because Excel's like alien to some people. Maybe write a veteran's resume for them. If you're not going to hire them, at least write the resume so that somebody else will. Be a reference. Okay. All right, guys. I really appreciate you guys for stopping in. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you follow. Make sure you do whatever on all three of these platforms. Make sure you share this podcast. This is an episode that I feel like... Oops, I bumped the mic. Sorry. I feel like this is an episode that a lot of people need to hear. Not just veterans, not, you know, I feel like a lot of people need to hear this. So make sure you share with your friends. Make sure you follow on whatever platform you want, because we are a live show. Okay, so we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you're listening right now, you might be listening on Spotify. I'm trying to get the Apple Podcasts, but it's being difficult. So right now it's mainly on Spotify and like Google Podcasts and some other smaller platforms. So make sure you follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Like the videos, comment on the videos, get the algorithm going, share with your friends, tell your friends to follow, and I want to see you guys in the next episode. Because when we're all in here, the whole point of the live show is for us to interact with each other. People can chime in, people can redirect conversations. So I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Until then, catch y'all on the flippity flip. Peace. Hook 'em.